Hi, I'm Greg Hall. So I have a presentation at the California Tableau Users Group tomorrow, October 1st, 2020. So I'm going to start off by saying, hi, I'm Greg Hall. I work for UCSF School of Pharmacy as a database web developer. And a month and a half ago, I did a presentation at the UCSF Tableau Users Group. So I am going to do a subset of that presentation here. So before I get started, I am going to go over what I'm going to cover. So over here I have a bunch of slides here. Let me zoom in. So to speed things up, I'm going to skip a lot of things. So over here, I am going to go over how to resolve a set actions issue. So I learned about set actions at the Tableau Conference 2019. Let me show you this 2019 highlights right here. So under self-service analytics, we have set and parameter actions. So set actions was a popular topic at the Tableau Conference 2019. So I'm going to go over an issue with set actions. So let me close this guy and go back to our slide. I'm also going to cover and talk about the JavaScript API, focusing on event listeners. So with the event listeners, you can select objects from your dashboard and collect the values of those objects so that you can, for example, drill down to other Tableau dashboards. You can also use the values for your own interfaces that you feel comfortable with. And you can save it to your database too. So those are the two areas I am going to cover. I'm going to cover resolving a set action issue and talk about the JavaScript API focusing on event listeners. So let me scroll down a bit. I'll probably skip this. Let me skip this. Okay, over here. So this is set actions. So the issue we have with set actions is that when we select objects, or in this case categories, we get our ins and outs, but the totals on top disappear. That's why you see this panicking emoji and this lady screaming, "Where's my totals?" So I'm going to be using my Tableau desktop to resolve that issue. And once we resolve that issue, you're going to see this happy emoji. So now when I select my objects or categories in this case, I get my ins and outs, and the totals on top stay intact. And I'm going to talk about the JavaScript API focusing on the event listeners, so that when I select my objects from my dashboard, I can get the field names, the values, and from the values I can drill down to other Tableau dashboards such as this tree map, word cloud, and I can select objects to get my ins and outs for my set actions. I can also use the values for my own interface. This is a drag and drop Telerik component where I can filter, sort, and do all sorts of things. And I can also get the values to put into reporting services. So reporting services is a report writer where you can write really complex reports. Sub-reporting, there's groupings and graphs in real time. Pretty cool. Over here we have images. We can have images in Tableau using shapes. And here we have our parameter slider. You can change the value here. Right now it says 20, meaning that if you have 20 or more patient case records, then we have what we call our up categories. If it's less than 20, then we have our down categories. And what else? Feedback. This is our feedback interface. We're probably not going to go over this, but it's important to get feedback from others. Feedback is valuable information that can be used to make important decisions. Effective feedback has benefits for the giver, the receiver, and the wider organization. So as a programmer, developer, I may have tunnel vision, so it's good to get feedback from others. So you can use email. You don't need to have a feedback interface. It's good if you have one, but again, you can use email. So without further ado, let's get started. Let me close this guy, and I'm going to click here on our OEIS website. It's going to bring up our login screen. I'm going to log in with my user ID and password. So under the patient case bank header, I'm going to click on Tableau category count. So I'm currently developing applications for our education department. Here I pretty much finished this guy, and I'm working on another education application. So over here, I'm going to click on Tableau. It's going to bring up a dashboard from Tableau Public. So one of the issues we have with Set-Actions is that when we select objects, or categories in this case, we get our ins and outs, which is a part of Set-Actions, but the totals on top disappear. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me click here on Set-Actions Broken with this panicking emoji. So when I select my objects here, my categories, I'll get my ins and outs, but these totals will disappear. So let me select, how about the first 4? So again, I get my ins and outs, which is a part of Set-Actions. Let me click here and explain what that means. I'll click my help button. It says here, if the condition is true for a given record, then that record is included in the set in, which is in orange here. And if the criteria are not met, then the record is excluded from the set out, which is in gray. So that's your ins and outs in Set-Actions. Again, I get my ins and outs, but these totals disappear. That's why you see this panicking emoji and this lady screaming, "Where's my totals?" No worries. I'm going to click here on Set-Action Fix with this happy emoji. So I'll select the same categories, and notice now I get my ins and outs, and my totals on top stay intact. So now I can say I have 40 out of 71 that are easy among these selected categories. I have 114 out of 142 for intermediate. So how did I get my totals to stay intact? Let me bring up my Tableau desktop. Here's my data source. It's coming from a stored from procedure from Microsoft SQL Server. So Tableau also uses Microsoft SQL Server as their backend database. So here I group by category and difficulty to get my counts. You can see my sheets here. That's my vertical bar chart, but let me show you my category bar. Right here I have my categories and horizontal bar. Again, my vertical bar chart, my dashboard. So the key to making the total stay intact is to make this vertical bar chart, my difficulty fields with easy, intermediate, and hard, you make this dual axis. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me go to a brand new sheet. So I'm going to hide this title here. Right click, click on Hide Title. And I'm going to drag my difficulty field on top of the column shelf and drag my count field on top of the rows shelf. So I have my difficulty field in a vertical bar chart with easy, hard, and intermediate, but it probably, let me make this bigger so you can see it, it probably should read easy, intermediate, and hard. No worries, I can go up to my difficulty field, go to the drop down and click on sort. So here I have my data source order drop down. I can select menu, highlight intermediate, and click the up arrow. Now it reads easy, intermediate, and hard. So you can see here in the vertical bars, it reads easy, intermediate, and hard. So the next thing I'm going to do is drag my count on top of labels. So now I have my totals on top of each vertical bar. And then I'm going to drag my category set on top of colors, my ins and outs. So how did I get my category set? Over here on the category field, you can go to the drop down, go to create, and click on set. So that's how you get your category set. So I'm going to drag my category set on top of color. So you would think this is all you should have to do to get your ins and outs. But the issue we have is that when we select our objects or categories, we'll get our ins and outs, but the totals on top will disappear. So how do we resolve this issue? We use dual axis. So let me show you how that's done. I can drag my measured values on the rows shelf. Now we have two vertical bar charts, one for the count, sum count, and one for the measured values. Now we have to make this dual axis, so we'll have one chart layered on top of another chart. So you do this by going to the drop down. Let's do it on the sum count. I'll click on dual axis. Now we have one chart layered on top of another, but notice the bubble charts, no worries. Let's see, I'm on sum count here, so I can go to this drop down, click on bar, and do the same with measured values. We'll do the same with that layer as well. I'll click on bars. So now we have one vertical bar chart layered on top of another vertical bar chart. We're on measured values, that layer. I'll get rid of the positioning of the arrows. We don't need that. Sum ID, measured name, we don't need that. So the key to making this work is to get rid of the category set, your ins and out of color on the measured values layer, because we already have it in the sum counts layer, because that's what's causing the totals to disappear. So let me remove this, get this out. So now we do not have the category set on colors for measured values. Notice this is a bit fuzzy. So the vertical bar chart isn't exactly layered on top of the others. No worries. I can right click on the value here and click on synchronize axis. So now we have one vertical bar chart layered exactly on top of the other. Again, since we took this category set out of color, the totals on top of here will always stay intact. No worries about the ins and outs, because here, let's get rid of measure names, in the sum count, we have the category set on top of colors. So it's okay when we get our ins and outs here on this layer for the totals to disappear, because on the measure values layer, we remove the category set out of colors, so the totals on top will always stay intact. One other thing we have to do is set up our actions, which I already did, but let me show you our settings. So we can go to the dashboard. So we'll come up here on dashboard, click on it, go to actions, click on that. Notice I already have my category sets. So to create a category set, you can go to add action and click on change set values. Again, I already have it, so I'll just highlight this guy, edit, click on edit. The name is category set. The dashboard is here, right here, difficulty underscore set underscore shape. This is checked, this sheet is checked, which is this one right here. So you're going to check the one where you're selecting your categories or objects to get your ins and outs. So notice this guy is not checked, this sheet is not checked, because you're not selecting your object here to get your ins and outs, so that's unchecked. Here we have our data source, and we're using category set. Make sure select is selected, and remove all values from set is marked. That's it. So now when I select my categories to get my ins and outs, the totals on top will stay intact. So now let's get back to our dashboard. Let me reload. So the next thing we're going to talk about are images. So we can use shapes in Tableau to get images. And here we have our parameter slider, so we can change the value. Right now it has 20, meaning that if you have 20 or more patient case records, we have our up categories. If it's less than 20, we have our down categories. But with my slider, I can change that number. Let's make it larger. So it says 42. If it's 42 or more, we have our up categories. So we have in our up categories cardiovascular and infectious diseases. And if it's less than 42, we have our down categories. So that's how that works. So now let's go to my favorite topic, which is the API event listeners. So notice when I selected my objects, I'll select the top 4 again, we get our objects or categories up here. So how did I get these categories? So we use the event listeners. So I have documentation down below, so I can talk about that. So you can take a class, or I took a class at the Tableau Conference 2019. It's an hour and a half class. It's on-hands training, and they said all you need to know is working knowledge of HTML and JavaScript. And you basically do a lot of copy and pasting, and they show you how to massage it to make it work for your dashboard. So the area I enjoyed the most was the event listener. So let me show you that method, that function here. So it's right over here. It's pretty easy. So this is how I got my categories. You just go through a loop here, a for loop here, and if it sees the category field, it takes the value of that category field and puts it into a variable. So it does a loop through all those selected objects, the ones you selected, and it concatenates the category values into a variable. And once it's finished with the loop, all you're doing is getting that variable and assigning it to an HTML input type text. So that's what I did. So that's how I'm able to get these guys right over here. There's an input, HTML input type text here, and I'm just assigning it over there. So that's how I'm able to get the objects. And now I can do whatever I want with it. I can save it to my database. I'll show you a couple examples of what I did. I'll click on my event log. I got the selected objects. And you can get the field name and values over here. And with those selected objects, the categories, you can drill down to other Tableau dashboards, such as this tree map, this word cloud. I can select my categories here to get my ins and outs, and notice the total stay intact because I'm using dual axis. We can also get selected objects and use it in our own interfaces, the ones that we're comfortable with. So I can post these guys, and now we're no longer in Tableau, but I was able to get the values from the Tableau dashboard to use for my own interfaces. So we happen to be using .NET MVC C# with Microsoft SQL Server as our backend, and we use something called Telerik Components and reporting services a lot. So here we have, in this component, we got the values from Tableau, and we can prioritize our categories with drag and drop sorting, pretty slick. We can use reporting services for cardiovascular, get the subcategories, pretty cool. And so reporting services is a report writer where we can write really complex reports with sub-reporting and groupings and graphs in real time, export it to various formats, and we can print it out as well. So we can do a lot of cool stuff here. And you can also, and here we can filter, we can sort, we have our flyout menus on each record, we can look at detailed information. This is on cardiovascular, we have our flyout menus, so we got the values from Tableau using the event listeners. Pretty cool. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in the presentation. I made it short. Let's go back to our Tableau bar. One thing to note is that, so we use something called Telerik Components. So for easy graphs, just to let you know, we use Telerik Components because they're in real time, meaning that once, in this case, our professors update something, they can look at the graphs or data visualization in real time. But with Tableau, you can write much slicker dashboards. Here we can only have simple graphs, such as pie chart, you know. But one of the cool things here is that you can filter on this grid, and it's going to be reflected in this pie chart. And we can do stuff like deselect, select. We can select objects like we did with the JavaScript event listeners and post these categories as well. So you can do stuff like that, but you can't do anything like Tableau. So here, yeah, what else? Let's go back to our Tableau bar. And so I put a lot of our prototypes in Tableau up here in our menu bar. So we have more stuff here. We have set actions. We have parameter actions. We have cool stuff like, oh, I was going to show b-ball. I always show this guy. You can do fun stuff in Tableau. Here, this is our UCSF School of Pharmacy versus the Golden State Warriors when they had Kevin Durant and DeMarcus Cousins. This is our home court, but we can play go to a road game, UCSF road games, and now we're playing at the Oracle Arena. Yeah, it's the Chase Center now, but it was the Oracle Arena. So here we can use the JavaScript API. I can click here for like matchups. I can click on point guard, and it's me versus Stephen Curry. And for shooting guard, it's my manager versus Klay Thompson. What do I have for small forward? It's my manager's manager versus Kevin Durant. So we can do fun stuff like that. And I'm going back home. Let's go to 4 columns here. I have something called Sharecase. At the UCSF Sharecase, we did a game. And what we did, the reason why we did a game was that we wanted to show how user-friendly our interfaces are. So we did a game just to make it fun. So what we did, we have something in let me show you. This is Tableau. So we did something called a celebrities game. So here we select our celebrities. It says select either 3 or 4 celebrities. I'll select, how about the first 3 here, and I'll post these celebrities. Now you can see them here. We use the event listeners to get these guys, these celebrities. I'll post these celebrities. Now we're no longer in Tableau, but we got the data from Tableau, the celebrities from Tableau. And now we wanted to show in our Sharecase, UCS Sharecase, that we can have drag and drop sorting. Pretty cool here. And then go to our Feel Lucky game. And it says here, your sorted celebrities must match our random sorted celebrities. So it says I have 3 tries. I can start my game. These 3.
Congratulations, you're a winner.
Whoa, that's surprising. Usually you don't win that quick. Normally, let's reset. What would happen is that, let's start the game again. When you're trying to match these 3.
Sorry, try again.
And now notice that Marilyn Monroe matched, but Charlie Theron and Chris Hemsworth did not match. So I would try again, click again, roll my dice. But anyways, so we have
Congratulations, you're a winner.
That's very surprising. Now, usually don't win that quick. Anyway, so you get the picture. We can use, let me go back to 3 columns. You can use Tableau to create fun stuff as well. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. So that's going to be my practice presentation. Thanks for watching. Let me minimize this.